Yeah. All right. So, Alyssa, thanks for joining us with Under the Hard Hat here for this lovely interview. If you don't mind, just to get started, if you don't mind introducing who you are and what you do.
Great. Yeah, thanks for having me. My name's Alisa Bailey. I am with Waystone Consulting, which is my own consulting business. I'm out of Port Coquitlam, which is close to Vancouver, BC. And yeah, so my career has been a bit varied, but primarily I've been in the kind of owner's rep project management. And my previous role was as a vice president in the industrial sector at fully integrated design and construction company.
Right on. That's exciting. And a variety of different roles there for
Yeah.
sure. So we'll just kind of start off with, what inspired you to pursue a career in construction in the first place? Because it's not a very common, career path for many, especially
Yeah.
women in the industry, something we definitely want to touch on. But what kind of inspired you to do that?
Yeah, it was not necessarily fully intentional. It's not like I dreamed about being in construction for my whole
Mm,
life. I went to university straight out of high school and really didn't do very well, even though I was like a straight A student in high school. I just didn't really have a good career path and didn't wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I left university and then kind of worked for a while and met my husband, and we were both looking to go to school, and he was looking to go to BCIT, and he had was going to take computer systems technology, and I thought, well, a 2-year program, that sounds great. I think, maybe that'll be the best for me. And I basically looked through all the brochures at BCIT and picked something that I thought would be interesting, because I thought it's only 2 years.
hmm.
I can get something better than working at a restaurant or a dollar store, and then start things off. And if I don't like it, I can go back to school and add to whatever I had. So I looked through the brochures and the architecture building engineering technology program. It's called ABET at BCIT.
Hmm.
Really interested me. The idea of just seeing, like the library downtown Vancouver is such a cool, iconic building, and being involved in that seemed interesting to me. So I don't think I had a really good sense of what I was getting myself into, but the
Right.
idea of it was there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exciting. It definitely sounds like a lot of people when they first start thinking about a career. I don't think, we know exactly where we're going, but definitely interesting to hearing where your inspiration came
Yeah.
from. Do you think this is a great career to pursue now for the younger generation compared to when you started?
Um, Compared to when I started, I think it's always been a great career. And I think the biggest thing about construction is that there's so many different types of jobs that you can have, right? I think people have
Hmm.
a perspective of construction as being something that is fairly monolithic. But yeah, there's lots of different roles that you can have when you're working with a construction in design, engineering, construction. There's a lot of different spaces that you could work in. The thing for me that I like the most is that it is so versatile. Like there's so many different aspects to it. You're going to be working with architects and engineers, all different types of engineers, and construction people, tradespeople, suppliers. There's just so many different types of people that you get to interact with when you're working in construction and design that
Hmm.
it makes for a fun time, and lots of learning. So
Yeah, definitely. I think when people think of construction, the first thing most people think of, I think, is trades,
yeah,
right? And while, again, trades are a fantastic career as well, the construction itself just has such a different variety
yeah,
to offer from, design, architecture, engineering, all of these
yeah.
fields. So totally understand where you're coming from. Do you think there was a defining moment when you knew this career was for you? Like you mentioned early on, you weren't sure, you were gonna kind of play it out
Yeah.
and see how it goes for you. Was there like a moment when you realized, oh, okay, this could be a really a career?
Um, I don't know if there was like a moment. I think I just, as I started working in the industry, so my first job was I was basically an entry level job. I had no background, on a site or anything like that. So I worked doing drafting for a log home manufacturer, which wasn't my ideal position, but it gets you somewhere. But I think the next job that I had, I was working in the building envelope retrofit industry. It's called the leaky condo industry for many, many years. And
Hmm.
just the I love the diversity of the role. And I think I realized in myself that I needed that in a job. Like I needed to be doing lots of different things or else I get bored.
Hmm.
And the work that I was doing was letting me do that. I was on site, I was doing reports, talking with people, having meetings. So I wasn't just, I couldn't be an accountant or nothing against accountants, but, like I couldn't sit at a desk or be an engineer and doing calculations all day. That just wasn't my kind of thing. I needed to be doing a lot of different things to keep myself engaged. So that's, I think,
Hmm.
when I realized that it was the right thing for me, is because I realized it fit my personality, which I don't think I even knew when I was in high school, or
Yeah, 100%.
until you get into the job and realize you're like, okay, I can't be doing just this thing over and over and over again. Then that's when I think I really figured it out. So
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. Honestly, to find the kind of path along the way and realize that what you're really good in, um, basically kind of speaks to what construction can provide,
yeah,
right? I've never even heard of that career,
yeah.
what you just mentioned, and that, this is the craziness about construction is there are a lot of jobs and opportunities in this
Hmm.
field that people have never even heard
Yeah,
of. Um,
yeah.
so super cool. As a female construction business owner now, what is it like working in the industry?
Um, I think it's a varied question. So, like as a female working in the industry now, I think things have changed quite a bit since I
Hmm.
first started. There's definitely a lot more women. It's not that we're 50%. Definitely, I think we're still like at 10 or 11%. So you
Hmm.
still are like outnumbered when you get onto site. But things are improving. Like there's a lot of the things that would make people or women specifically feel uncomfortable on site have kind of gone away. It's still there and you still have to deal with it. It's actually kind of underlying now instead of just more overt.
Hmm.
But what would I say about being a business owner? I'm I think people appreciate the value that I provide and the different voice that I provide.
Hmm.
I also focus a lot on collaboration and bringing teams together. So I think I just add that different perspective when I work on projects because I'm trying to bring the team together instead of just focusing on deliverables and making sure things are getting done and the tactical components of it. It's like, why aren't things getting done? And it's usually a people
Hmm.
problem, not a task problem, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, bringing the value is super important. Do you feel like, in terms of challenges you face now compared to when you first started, are there any differences that you think have changed over time um, compared to now?
Yeah, I think now, as a woman, it was a lot harder working in the industry previously. It was, if you were having a bad day and you needed to, have cry or just be frustrated, like that kind of wasn't allowed. So there
Mm,
was a lot of times when I was first in my career, the bathroom was the place where people went to you know unleash the emotions that were coming out of you. You had to be very like straight up, professional, and
mm,
emotions weren't allowed and feelings weren't allowed. And I think the industry is getting a lot better at thinking about mental health and just people being humans instead of robots.
right.
That
Yeah.
you're the thought process is a little bit different now, and there's a lot more diversity, a lot more different opinions that are coming out. So I think that's changed quite a bit. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. I mean, mental health is still a big issue plaguing the industry as we know it. It is something that actually has been plaguing quite a lot of industries. But in terms of your perspective, do you think there's any specific reason why construction might be higher than compared to other industries?
Yeah, I think there's a macho-ness that's kind of that pervades the industry, and also a feeling of people not being feeling psychologically safe to be not right or not knowledgeable or not an expert. There's a lot of the thought process is if you're only valued if you're an expert, right? And
Mm,
you're only valued if you're correct and you do things. Everything has to be done right. We don't really failure's not seen as something that is a valuable thing.
hmm
And being people are off their game all the time, right? You just have a bad day for some reason. You didn't sleep well, and you can be off your game. And I think the industry is slowly working towards getting better and understanding that you can't just yell at somebody and make them do a better job. That you
hmm
actually have to talk to them and understand what's going on with them, because most people want to do a good job, right? And so I think, yeah, the industries, I think it's the core nature of how the industry was kind of developed and how it's always been. And it takes a long time to change those things. So,
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we've seen a lot of changes kind of come up and coming, basically kind of happen over the course of the last couple of decades, but it does still have a long ways to go. Do you feel like with the percentage of workforce currently being around 11% being female and the remainder percent being mostly male, it does sound like a lot of that kind of macho-ness in the culture stems from that imbalance? Do you think that has a role? Sorry, do you think that has a role to play in that kind of culture?
yeah, I do. I think that, well, that's the main reason why it is. So there's a lot of ability to have, I know, locker room chat and that kind of, you get in a room of a whole bunch of guys, and I've been in meetings where all of a sudden the small talk is about how their wives are annoying, or and it's that like standard stereotypical chat that you think guys would
Mm,
engage in. And I think some of the times it's not even that that's how those people believe. It's just how guys have learned how to engage in anything, so in
mm,
certain things and in small talk. And so I think that is part of it. It's just kind of societal.
mm.
And you do see that some of the times where they catch themselves, people catch themselves, and they're like, "Oh, there's a girl in the room." We have to change how we talk, right? So,
Right, yeah.
but I would say that that's it does happen, and you kind of for me, I used to be somebody who called every single little tiny thing out, and I've
Mm,
kind of gotten to the point now where I'm like, that was unintentional and it really wasn't that bad. So like, there's no reason to bring it up. But there are times when you have to like, say something and make sure that the room understands that that's not okay to
mm,
be like that. But to your question, yeah, I think it is. But I think it's systemically from society that's
mm,
it's the same thing if you got a bunch of women in a room and talking about that, it would these standard things that you talk about would come up, right? And I think most women don't engage, always believe in those things, but it's like how we're kind of taught to engage with the same sex, right?
yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's harder to engage if if there's nine men in the room and there's one woman.
Yeah,
So that definitely makes a big difference. But we have seen kind of the tides changing. We have seen more women come into the construction industry, the whole AEC space.
yeah.
Based on your experience, what do you think men can do to support more women in joining this male-dominated construction industry?
Yeah, I one of the biggest things is that I've encountered is that A lot of the men that I work with that are in like senior leadership think that women need a woman to help them navigate the industry, right? But there's such a small percentage of senior leaders in the industry that we can't take on all of the women. And there's lots that, though I can provide a lot of valuable insight to women on how
Mm-hmm.
it's been and how to maybe engage with the things from a very female perspective. I think generally mentorship is about training people on your skills and your knowledge and the things that you know and helping them get better.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the one thing, is that, to take some of the women under your wing and work with them. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing I would say is that there's a lot of unintentional bias in giving out work that happens. So you'll find
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of women in especially project management or construction management are kind of relegated to the paperwork jobs. They're not really trained on scheduling or estimating or some of the other things. And some of the times I think that comes just purely out of the fact that there's this assumption that women are really good and organized, and therefore that's a great
Mm-hmm.
job for them. And so they end up in those roles instead of being taught some of the other things that are actually the skills that will get them to the next level.
Right. Yeah. So mentorship obviously is something that's
Yeah.
huge. When it comes to that in terms of career progression, I think this is a really good chance to kind of talk about your career and how you were able to progress in your
Mm-hmm.
field. Because I know you took those steps and you had that kind of success to building now your own consulting
Yeah.
business. Can you kind of walk us through those steps and how you went through your
Sure.
career and what really kind of helped you progress to that level?
Yeah, for sure. So, like I said at the beginning, I started out with a at a log home manufacturer for a couple of years, and mostly just to get something on my resume that was in the construction field. I did
Mm-hmm.
find that a lot of the guys that I was went to school with either had a background in construction, like they'd work on construction sites, or their parents had a construction company or an engineering or design company, and so their resume looked much better. Like I was a waitress, and so it wasn't seen as
Mm,
like a transferable skill. So,
right.
but I then moved to engineering company that did building envelope and restoration of buildings, and worked. I think the biggest thing at that job that helped me out the most is that we did everything. Like I was. From the very beginning of the project, where we were doing the investigations of the buildings to understand what the issues were, to writing the reports, sitting in client like strata council meetings and presenting,
Mm,
to drawing the details, working with the drafting team to work through the drawings and creating the specifications, and then doing site reviews and working with contractors on actual construction once we got into the construction, and working with owners. So I think that helped me a lot, being able to be part of the project from the very beginning to the very end, because I got a good perspective of the whole thing.
mm,
And then I moved to BC Housing, which is the social housing agency in BC.
mm,
And actually, the reason why I did that is because the engineering firm I worked with, it was very clear that, like, I was a technologist, not an engineer, which is another bias. There's a bias there in the industry of how far you can go being just a technologist, which I think is changing, but it's still
mm,
there. And so I moved primarily because I knew that there was not, I wasn't, that I didn't think that I was going to get it to where I wanted to be at the other company, primarily because of that engineering component. So,
mm,
so moved to the BC Housing and worked there. I became a manager within 6 months. And then was a director at the time that I left. So managing a team of I think 15 to 20, and I worked across the province, doing not only social housing work but Ministry of Education and CMHC.
Hmm.
And then I moved to the next company I had, which is a design construction firm, engineering firm. And they hired me on as a project director. So I was managing some of their more complex projects. And I moved on, and picked that kind of role because I was looking to do something that was slightly different than I had done before. Because building envelope retrofits, you're basically doing the like taking all the cladding and off and the windows replacement, roof replacement, things like that, parking lot or parking garages, replacing anything that's on the exterior of the building. I hadn't really done ground up construction. I hadn't done anything besides schools and social housing. So I was trying to get kind of a little bit more diversity in my career. And so
Hmm.
that was the one reason why I went there. Plus, I also was just sick and tired of the way that because that we did design bid build work for a lot
Hmm.
of that, which is the and designers and engineers do all the drawings and specifications, and then it goes out for tender, and then the contractors bid on it. And
Right.
invariably, and this is a thing that's changed, but invariably there's errors in the drawings and errors in because people are fallible, and you're not going to catch everything, and the owners haven't told you everything, or there's lots of reasons why. But they, that creates conflict with the contractor who's then priced it, has fixed a price. So that kind of adversarial relationship and way of working it wears on you. And so
Hmm.
the company that I moved to, because everything was integrated and in-house, I was looking forward to it being a more collaborative approach to how we did projects. And also the projects that they were asking me to do were much more complex. So I might not have been leading a team of project managers, but I was responsible for leading the team at the of all the engineers, designers, and contractors to make sure that the project was delivered well for the client.
Right.
So
I mean, that sounds like a pretty impressive career progression from one step to the other. And it totally makes sense. I mean, we all kind of have these kind of realizations while we're in the middle of a career of things that we're looking for and then be able to change it. For you, it sounds like, a lot of the ability to change the career stemmed from just putting yourself into a position where you have that chance to gain the
yeah,
experience and then using that experience to then progress and move forward to a different company, potentially into a role that you were more excited for. Um, if there was like the younger generation and you had some advice, do you feel like this is something that would apply to them? Would this be something that you would recommend that they do, especially in construction, to be able to kind of progress their own careers?
yeah. I think there's different ways. There's some people that they specialize, right? So if you
Mm,
get into there's like high rise construction, and that is you just love it, then get better at it and learn more. I think one thing that I would say for younger people is you don't have to be an expert, right? You don't have to
mm,
be the smartest person in the room. I think the thing that has really been something that has helped me is that I ask questions. So if I don't know something, I don't pretend to know something. I try and find the person that's going to understand that. And I don't, well, I can't say I've never. I think early in my career, I tried to pretend that I knew everything and tried to
mm,
be the expert. And I quickly realized that I was failing greatly at doing that because you can't. There's just too much to know in the industry, and so if you can be if you can be honest with people in a safe way, because sometimes it's not safe to be saying you don't know everything, but if you can
right.
find those people that you can say, "Can you explain this to me and help me understand?" That I think has been the thing that's really set my career in the path that it is, because I know a little bit about a lot of things, and so it allows me to take those skills and utilize them on the next project that I have. So
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I mean, that vulnerability, I think, is something we all learn as we grow, especially I think early on in our
yeah,
careers, we want to be that expert that knows
yeah,
everything. But as we grow into our careers, we quickly realize that that's just not something that's
yeah,
realistic. And there are oftentimes people that know information that was super helpful to us, and it's better that they know it. And it's just a matter of asking the right questions, like you said.
yeah,
So that's a great tip, I think, for young entrepreneurs or people getting into careers is, don't put that pressure on yourself to have to excel to a certain level. That's technically not really realistic,
yeah.
and just work with what you have, right?
And I
So,
would say too that it expands your network of people, because if people realize that if you bringing them in and saying, okay, you know this more than I, let me bring you in front of the client or bring you in front of the engineer, you explain it because you can do it better than I can, like
mhm,
then you actually gain a lot of people who respect you because they know that you're not trying to pretend to be something you're not. And
mhm.
in later on you can be able to reach out to those people and say, I've got another issue, can you come and help me out? And they will know that you see them as a trusted member of your kind of team and network, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you've kind of had that progression as well. So let's talk about, from the steps that you took once you were in your like last job to push forward into the entrepreneurship component,
Okay.
because you launched your own business, and I think this is super exciting. So can you tell us a little bit about what made you take that step and where you're at kind of right now? What do you think
Yeah.
helped you kind of make the transition?
Yeah, so I had thought a lot over my career about potentially going into consulting, but because I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, I wasn't quite sure what that would look like, right? So
Hmm.
so my focus was to, especially in the last, I would say, 8 years, is to kind of figure out where my niche might be, and also to just work on really exciting projects that when you showcase them to people they can go, oh, okay, you've done some cool stuff. So
Yeah,
and so the last
yeah,
company I worked for, I got to work on a lot of very interesting projects that I can definitely say was cool stuff. And I was coming to the end. I was a vice president at the last company I was at, and there were some changes in personnel and the way that the company was running, and it just felt like it was time for me
yeah.
to exit. And I did think about going back into the industry. I did a lot of interviews, and I really realized that the skill set that I had was very specific, and it didn't really fit into what the companies that I was talking to needed. And so
Mm.
and I had a few mentors, colleagues, and that really said to me, like, why don't you just try it on your own?
Mm.
And I think the thing that pushed me the most is somebody said to me, all you have to do is try it for a year. If you don't like it, it's not failure. You just attempted it, and you tried it for a year, because you don't know until you don't try it. And I think that was actually the thing that pushed me along to say that A, I have the skills to do all this, but B, if it doesn't work out, that's okay. Like, it's not, because I think I had it in my head. It had to work. And if it didn't work, then I was going to, yeah, hang my head in shame. And so, so I, went out on my own, and I've been out on my own now for just over a year, and it's working. It's not easy. There's a lot of
Mm.
networking and a lot of skill sets that I didn't know I needed. And you're kind of, when you're a one man show, you're having to do everything: the accounting, the marketing, and you realize how many people you relied on at the last company that you had.
Yeah.
I always appreciated every single person that worked at all the companies I worked at, but you really appreciate them when they're not there.
Yeah. Yeah. So running your own business is a different ball
Yeah,
game. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that and the component of getting your first client. I think this is something that a lot of business owners are always wondering around. even when it comes to construction. For you, obviously you have a specialty skill set, but just like anybody, you do need to land that first client.
Yeah.
What was the kind of way that you were able to land that first client? What do you think led to that success?
Yeah. So one thing that I did do is that I had still projects that were were on underway with the last company that I had, and so I made sure that we had it was an amicable split, and so
Mhm.
I actually contracted with them for a few projects so that I had some a few things to help them finish off the projects and maintain consistency with the clients. But I think my first client was actually a surprise. I had reached out to some people that I had worked with, not thinking at all that I would get on that project. And actually, it was just a lunch with a couple of people that I considered friends. And
Mhm.
they were like, oh, wow, like we totally need you at the, we totally need you. So I would say that the thing that is reaching out to people remember you. I think for me, I assume because I haven't talked to them in a long time, or yeah, I haven't seen people in a while, or various reasons that you can convince yourself that you don't have a connection
Yeah.
with people. I would say that like just reaching out to your network. It's things come randomly a little bit, and it's not fully baked. So the idea that I had of how I was going to actually get my first clients, I've tried many things that haven't worked, and I think what I've learned is you have to really be able to pivot really quick, like realize that something's
Mm.
not working, um, and the other thing is understanding that your time is very, very valuable as a business owner,
Right.
right? So, making sure that you're spending your time in the places where it's going to be best suited to get you to the next level. And then, yeah, taking people's, like, I asked a lot of questions. So, as I was the first few months where I was feeling like I was struggling a bit, I reached out to people that do similar work to me, and just had coffee with them and said, like, how do you do it? And how do you bring in
Mm.
business? So again, just realizing I wasn't an expert in getting business
Yeah.
this way. And because it was different from what I was the business I got when I was working at the last company. And kind of pulling in those people and asking people to introduce you, right? So, and feeling
Yeah.
confident that you have the skill set to provide good work for clients. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the majority of it is like networking and just being able to connect with those people because oftentimes we do the mental gymnastics in our own
Yeah,
head, that we can't necessarily connect to old contacts or, we haven't necessarily reached out to
yeah,
them. But from what I'm getting, to be able to succeed in getting that kind of first few clients, it sounds like for you, and I think this happens for a lot of people, is just use the contacts that you already
yeah,
know. You'd be surprised, I think, at how much those can connect you to your first potential client, and then those connections can lead to another one, especially if you do a great
yeah.
job. Have you had any opportunities from those clients to then get referrals or anything along those lines?
Well, right now, most of those clients are keeping me quite busy. So,
Oh, okay.
so
Oh, that's a great
which is
thing.
good. So I've, but I think the other thing too is there has been referrals from especially former coworkers. That's another thing that, like, not just clients, but there was lots of people that I worked with, colleagues that I had at previous companies that were happy to hear that I was out on my own, and that excited for me and willing to like give me the connections to other
Yeah.
companies. So, and I think that's again, the networking piece wasn't really about going to big networking events and meeting a whole bunch of people. It really was just kind of understanding, getting people to understand what you're planning on doing, the work that you're going to be providing, and putting it in their heads so that while they're having
Mm.
conversations with other people, they'll go, oh, wait a second, I do know somebody who does that.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah, it's that relationship building. It's that, like I said, just planting that little seed
Yeah,
to be able to go from, oh, this is what Alyssa's doing. Maybe there's somebody that can
yeah,
help. And I think people really underestimate those small
yeah,
connections, spending tons of the time maybe thinking about how to market themselves when in fact, the relationship building that you've worked with previous people is really where I think a lot of payoff is going to be. And I think that's really where construction is, even currently with a lot of
yeah,
projects, because you mentioned even previously, it seems that there's a lot of like connection building to be able to land these big projects and be able to kind of get
yeah,
considered based on the
yeah,
experience, right? It's no like formal application in a certain sense to get these
yeah,
jobs, I'm assuming. So,
yeah.
um, that's awesome. When it comes to using any new technologies, is there anything that you currently use that you think is actually helped you kind of move the needle a little further forward? A lot of people are talking about AI and all of these kind of different systems. What are your thoughts on it? Are you using it in your business at all, or?
Yeah, I do use ChatGPT. I find it's more of a research assistant that I would use it
Mm,
as. I have used it for presentations to basically, you know, embellish or enhance what I'm already writing, and to also
yeah.
get some ideas. That I think that it's idea starting. It's an idea starter, because sitting with a blank piece of paper is very hard.
Oh yeah.
and when you're on your own, you're not having people to. You don't actually have that banter to brainstorm as much. So
Mm,
I find I use it in that way. But yeah, research as well. So being able to like say ask it a question about something, a problem that you're working on, or a specific industry that you're looking to get
mm,
into, and it'll give you some different ideas and angles that you would have done anyways. You would have like Google searched it to death and
yeah.
spent way more hours, but you get it a lot faster. So that's how I've been using AI. I've been looking at a lot
Mm,
of tools. I think like there's a lot of tools in construction right now that are coming out. The industry is kind of on the radar of the tech industry, and
mm,
it's I find it very difficult to navigate between all the different tools and whether they're going to provide the value for the money, which is, I
mm,
think, one thing that a lot of construction companies, people in design and construction struggle with, right? Is you can only do you can only pay so much in subscriptions, and it has to really provide the value that you need. So, and it's very distinct to your business of what's going to be valuable. So, to
right.
date, my business is kind of I've got a few clients, so I can still use Excel spreadsheets for a lot of things.
Yeah.
So,
Google
and
Sheets
it's
and
just
all that
me.
kind of jazz. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, definitely like I think finding those things that are that you hate doing, like as a business owner, and you're just not good at, and they take up so much of your time. That's where I would focus in on technology as being a
Mm,
solution. Is so like the first thing I did was got a bookkeeper, which isn't a technology
right.
solution; it was a human solution. But I think if I didn't get a bookkeeper, I would have figured out QuickBooks or found out some way for it to be something that something else could take care of that for me.
Mm,
And I have looked into, assistants that you can use that can help you book meetings, or like finding those really time consuming things that provide, that really take your time away from doing work, right?
yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, we all have kind of different things and different needs. And I think it's kind of like you said, finding those pain points. And if there are pain points, those are probably going to be the bottlenecks in your
Yeah,
business. So seeing if you can outsource it or use tools like ChatGPT to help you out will save a lot of
yeah.
time. And I think people have found that in general, but very cool to hear that you're using that. Are there any kind of trends in the construction industry, moving into 2025 or even just within your field that you're really excited about?
Um, I think. For the industry, I think prefabrication is. I think it's been on the radar, and I think it'll help in a lot of ways. And I think it'll help with labor shortages. People do, like nobody likes working outside in the rain, so anything you can do to
Yeah,
make
not in
things
Vancouver.
a little bit easier and a little bit nicer working environment. Uh, is great. Plus, if we can, schedules, time is money, as everybody says. So anything we
Mhm.
can do to accelerate schedules is also always helpful. It'll be interesting though how that works, because I think with everything in the construction industry, there's so many different players. There's like people that are big players in the industry. They have resources and time to put in place, you know, or research that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
then there's a lot of small mom and pop shops or one man shows, one woman shows that really don't have the time to invest in that kind of thing. And I think really that kind of technology and prefabrication will get better if it's shared knowledge to the industry, and that those smaller players can start engaging in that,
Mhm.
instead of having to everybody kind of doing it on their own, right, and trying to figure it out
Yeah.
on their own. And I do think there's lots of discussions about that, but I think it's something that the industry could focus more as it being a holistic, and how do we bring more people into it? Because I think,
Mhm.
yeah, creating that knowledge base is and getting ideas from all angles is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then from my perspective, I think the collaboration, really understanding people, and really focusing in on understanding people's skill sets, where they come from, their backgrounds, and how people interact with each other, and that being a core idea and principle for managing projects and managing diverse teams like we have in construction and design.
Yeah.
That to me that's the most exciting thing, is being able to create understanding between humans, because we
Mhm.
ultimately do the work. And
Yeah.
even though construction is very task based, it's very relationship based. And
Mhm.
if you don't have a connection or respect for the person that's you're trying to have a conversation with, then it's really hard to get things done efficiently and effectively without issues, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, those are exciting trends. And I mean, when we look at construction in general, one of the biggest issues is labor, right? There's a shortage of labor across the board in Canada and in America. So when you look at things, what are the ways to be able to attract that labor? For sure, culture is one of the things, changing kind of the perception of what construction is and making people understand that there's actually quite a lot of money behind construction, which provides opportunities for a lot of people to make great money
Mm-hmm.
with solid career choices. Um, but when you think about 5 to 10 years from now, what do you think is going to change the most in terms of the industry? Do you think we're going to move towards more like the material side, the building side? Or do you think the culture is going to change the most? Yeah, I just wanted to kind of get your insights on that.
That's a good question. Do I have to pick one? I guess.
I mean, you don't have to. You can choose whichever
I
one.
I think I think two things. I think technology is going to be really important. COVID was actually, I think, very good for the design and construction industry, because it forced a lot of people to take that leap, like
Mm,
with remote work required or doing things online. That all that was just not very prevalent in the industry at the time. And so now I think people are starting to see that technology can help. I think how it will change is, I think, having more industry professionals involved in the development of that technology and how it actually works on the ground. That's the biggest issue that I think most people have, is uptake of all of this technology, because you're
mm,
not just dealing with hiring a general contractor, and that general contractor or construction manager or architecture firm, engineering firm buys into the technology. It has to be everybody in order for,
Hmm.
we're a very integrated industry. So it's not like an IT company where you implement a piece of technology, you train your staff on it, and you go. It's you're having to include everyone. And on multiple projects, you're not working with the same people every single time. So I
Right.
think making technology a little bit more seamless from a training perspective and from a learning perspective, and that information that's gathered in that technology is shared across all the teams. Like those things are important, because otherwise you get into some sticky situations with knowledge and where documents are shared and things like that. So I think that will happen because technology is here to stay. So I think there's going to
Hmm.
be a lot more changing the technology to be a lot more user friendly and very focused on how the industry actually works. And then the second piece I think is, yeah, culture, but I think more around creating more respectful environments. I think like mental health and all those things and culture, they all tie into the fact that what we just need to do is actually just create a much more respectful environment than what we have right
Hmm.
now. Like there's still a lot of pointing that, the engineers are saying that contractors are stupid and the architects are saying these guys are stupid, and like everybody's
Hmm.
pointing fingers. And I think what will make the industry much better is if everybody understands the role that everyone plays and the challenges that each of the roles have, right? So each role has a distinct challenge in how they work. And I think if people understand how they interact with each other and how their work streams interact, then we'll be much more efficient and we'll be much better off. And there'll be less of that adversarial piece, which is really what
Yeah.
creates a place where a toxic environment where people don't want to work.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's a huge component of it, that I think would obviously, if the time changes, things are obviously already moving in the right direction. But we do see that on the fronts for sure. There's just that lack of understanding between what each role kind of does, but also that lack of compassion that people can make
Yeah.
mistakes, right? And because I think construction is a high pressure, sometimes environment, projects need to be done in a specific time frame. That puts the extra pressure on it,
Hmm.
and I think that's where some of those emotions can get in the way of
Yeah.
compassion.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that's where potential exists for the construction industry to improve, and of course the technology component. So both of those I think are really, really big, and I totally agree with you on those two. If you were going to share like piece of advice for somebody that's now starting out in their career, or to yourself, like let's say if it was 20 years ago when you first started, from all the things that you've learned in your career, what do you think you would share?
I think the biggest one would be that your connections to people, even if they're very small, to keep those things and hold on to them. It can the industry can be very task based, and so I think even for me, I focused on getting the job done, and that
Mm,
and making sure that the work was completed. And I recall many times where I had a deadline and I had a coffee date, and I chose to cancel the coffee date instead of because of the deadline. And
mm,
looking back at it now, that half an hour that I would have taken would not have eaten into. I could have stayed late for half an hour to get that, and that half-hour meeting would have been invaluable to keeping expanding my
right.
network. And I think the other thing would be like, and this ties into network as well, is a lot of people that when the project's done, and you work with different teams every single time. Some people work with the same, but mostly you're working with
Mm,
a lot of different teams, and really taking stock of the people that you've worked with, understanding who they are, and trying to reach out or just even remember everybody, because there's so many
mm,
people and what they do, and because like you'll be down the road 5 years and you're like, I need somebody to do this. Like, but I
Right.
remember us doing it, but who did it? And you're looking through your Rolodex and going, I can't even remember because there were so many people on this project,
Right.
that just keeping track of the people that you work with and what they do and trying to engage with them, I think is really important, even if it's just an email to say hi, you know.
Right.
But yeah, networks, creating your network, I think is critically important. And you'll see that too from school, like every people that you went to school with, as you go up in your career, they're going up in their career too in different places,
Right.
right? So I think always keeping in contact with people and keeping those open lines of communication, I think is really important.
Wow. Those are amazing tips. Um, Thank you so much for getting on
Yeah,
to this awesome podcast and interview. It's been a pleasure to have you on. Before we go, just kind of want to send you off. If somebody's interested in working with Alisa Bailey and Waystone Consulting, what is it exactly that you guys do? What is it that you offer, and how can you help those people?
yeah. So, how I can help? So, we do owner's rep and project management services for clients. I like working in, I love the industrial space, manufacturing, laboratories, anything kind of complicated and weird. If it's got any sort of complication, whether that be a land complication, I've worked on a active landfill, or the building is brand new, and you're trying to work through how to actually get this project to work, or bringing together really unique teams where maybe there's a supplier that's from Europe, or and trying to
Hmm.
connect them with the local team. So if you've got a project that's kind of unique, or you don't even know how to run a construction and design project because you've never done it before,
Hmm.
I love helping people work through how to walk through the process and help train people and even just educate owners into how to do that. And then I also do provide project management training, more focused on how to collaborate, how to bring teams together, that aspect of it, the people aspect of it. I think there's lots PMP and all that helps you a lot with the task based tools, but how to take those tools and actually utilize them on a project and manage your risk through people management.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you
Yeah, it's been
on.
fantastic. Thanks,
And
Alex.
yeah, best of luck in your career
Awesome.
and hopefully chat soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Alex. Have a great day.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.